Good afternoon, everybody. So we back again this Friday. Colonel Shogun with me and Colonel Chair will be joining us to talk some of the old memories that we have of the Subsea Selection Board, what used to be happening there at that time. It's been nearly 20 years or so before. But the process has not changed very much. Earlier there were no screening tests. I started sometime in 96 or 97. It was a great learning process for us. Each candidate that we go through, the board interview, is a process of learning for us. We are also looking forward to questions that you have about the SSB as we go and discuss, and the selection process that we have to. See, earlier there were no screening, but the numbers was very high. Fine. I remember when I was in the SSB, where the SSB, the board is supposed to handle 40 candidates, and we used to get put 70 to 80, and therefore each assessor was doing double the number of candidates, and therefore it was becoming little unprofessional. And that's why they started to introduce the screening process so that they can screen out more numbers and get the few who can be handled. When each board is designed to handle 40, right? So screening is designed that way, that we reduce the excess numbers and we keep out 40 who have some spark, and they go through the process of the selection.
Sir, if you notice, when we were there, certain SRTs were suiting with the environment those times,
Yeah.
and maybe certain SRTs are still, here today also. But if you actually look at them, you will find it would have been pertained for the last 30 years.
Times
40
have
years.
changed. Times have changed. The socio-economic conditions have changed. The society has evolved, both good and bad, and therefore there are changes in the mindset of the youngsters. Perhaps it needs a fresh way of looking at it, and therefore some changes have happened, and some more maybe are required.
So that is the reason now you would have been seeing all the candidates come and tell us also that most of the SRTs at times also, and even GPs, group planning exercises where we are conducting, the GTO tells them ki you don't have any mobile facility with you.
Yeah.
Or you don't have any communication with you, because these were not required maybe 20-30 years before.
That time we were dependent on the landlines.
Yes.
And therefore communication was that much difficult, and it was not available everywhere. But abhi, if there's an issue, you can straight away call up. You are in connection with things, and therefore things are changed much different than what they used to be earlier. Perhaps those things are being introduced in a way by a word of caution, that this is not available, and a lot of time people get a little false. In the interview,
the tools are getting a revamping.
Yeah,
I mean, now a lot of experiments are being conducted by DIPR, Defense Institute of Psychological Research, and most probably you will find a lot of changes happening in the tools which are administered to the candidates in the coming days. Especially the SRTs are going through a revamping, because most of the time you find SRTs are pertaining to maybe 20-30 years before. The India that time was totally different, but with the kind of advancement in the technology, advancement in the communication, information technology, you will find a lot of SRTs are irrelevant maybe to certain extent, but then certain modifications may be probably required. Again, the profile of the youth, when we were there youngsters, we used to play a lot, there was hardly much of studies, we were having not much of entertainment in life, so reading was a great entertainment for us.
Yeah, reading was a great. Perhaps a lot more children used to read. Comics were there. We had those Hardy Boy and small things. Relatively, because of the social media, the reading habits are somehow fading. Right? People spend a lot more time on the social media, on the mobile phone. They get music, they get entertainment, they can communicate, right? So therefore, this becomes more of a second home for them, and as a result, connectedness now with the society is reducing. The observation of things is reducing, and therefore the value systems are also changing.
Absolutely right. Value systems have changed. If I remember, at least 50-60%, more than 60% of the youth were coming from joint families. And the environment of joint family is entirely different. There was 10-20 children, playing together, eating together, and sharing together. And it was not very luxurious kind of situation. Even a
Simple,
very
yeah.
good family was also that.
Yeah.
And we were probably, there was a time where you don't come at right time. Say, I remember I was in a joint family. There were 7-8 children there. So my mother used to say, you come between 1 o'clock or 2
You get a
o'clock,
meal.
you will get a meal.
Yeah.
You don't come in, you will not get a meal.
Yeah.
And there is no question, there is no meal afterwards. It is finished. So what we used to do, we used to climb mango trees and jackfruit trees, and we used to eat from the trees. So what happened, probably I never had fear of height because I have been climbing most of the time trees.
Yeah.
I used to jump from heights also. That was another great sports that time. Who will jump from the highest point? So our lifestyle was such that we were active. We have been most of the time running around, going hungry many
Yeah,
times.
climbing tree
drinking
was
water.
a very good number of games were there. We used to climb the trees and do a number of things which perhaps not happening. One is because there's too much of people, there's too much of traffic, there's safety issues are there. Parents are very possessive, and therefore a lot more children are not
Protective,
venturing
sir.
out
Parents have become very
into
protective.
Fun with nature, fun with adventure, the trees, that kind of thing is not happening, and therefore they are physically that much more vulnerable. They get injured very easily. They have fractures very easily. So that perhaps is one of the fallouts of the changing socio-economic environment.
Social fabric has changed, because now joint families become past. Today nuclear family is the norm. And you all would have seen, look at ourselves only. We also started pampering our children too much. If the child is not having food, the mother start chasing the child to have food. And the child doesn't share anything, whatever he's got, he got no habit of sharing. It's all conditioning. You cannot blame anybody.
Awareness levels were but when I was called in for the SSB, I had no idea of this, and I travelled by train and rode overnight 1.5 days, reached SSB at night, and when I saw those white structures, it appeared to me मैं कहीं कब्रिस्तान के पास आ गया हूँ, दूर से ऐसा लग रहा था. So that was so scary, but we went through all those things that they did.
Also, actually, these outdoor activities that we all used to participate in, पेड़ों पे चढ़ गए, इधर उधर गए, उधर कर दिया.
That's what I was
So
discussing.
those things actually improved your practical work sense.
Absolutely right.
A lot of times, I mean, we would have to come out of a tight corner because of that we got stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
So it is the practical work sense which helped us to come out of that.
Yes.
तो अगर वो चीज़ें बच्चे ने खेली हुई हैं, तो naturally that child will able to come out with good ideas on the GTO ground easily. In fact, I always used to tell when I was in the army that a child who's played hide and seek
Yeah.
will be able to occupy the best fire position because he would know कि अभी मैं नहीं दिख रहा हूँ पर मैं लोगों को देख पा रहा हूँ.
Absolutely right.
So
Absolutely right.
these are little games which which helped us to improve in those practical areas where unless you step out of home you will not be able to do all of that.
You see, when we were in the GTO series, when we were teaching them how to do knots, especially hangman nose and clove knots and all, it is such a, sometimes I used to wonder, they don't know anything except tying the shoe knot.
वो भी शायद कई
वो भी मुश्किल है।
बार मामा बांध के भेजती थी.
आजकल this is when shoes बड़े कम होते हैं.
So we were youngsters, I remember, we had 6 cows at home and 2 buffaloes.
Right.
So naturally, we've been handling them, tying the knots and putting them. कभी-कभी cow पीछे पड़ जाता है. Then you have to climb a tree. Then you are pulling them and pushing them. So we were mingling with these kind of situations, and automatically we knew to tie at least six type of knots.
I know.
So when those times we went to SSB, we never had these kind of issues.
There was no requirement actually. True. Absolutely.
So-
There's also the social connectivity with each other. I mean, it was the entire colony was a family actually.
Yeah, they
wherever
each
that you
other-
were staying, it was like people used to wish each other. Every elder that you went by, you wished that person. And
So those times I remember the SRTs which were asked to us, we didn't have to think 2 times what to do that time because we've been doing it on ground.
Absolutely. I know.
हम करते
One
थे
didn't have to
ग्राउंड
fabricate an answer. That
now
answer was always there.
Same youngsters are asking, sir, अभी इस SRT में करना क्या है?
अगर मेरे को ये हो गया तो मेरे को क्या बोलना है?
That is how you get stereotyped.
Also because
Unfortunate.
when we are too aligned with the question answer, the examination, ये सवाल पूछा जाएगा तो क्या जवाब देना है, and that we apply to life also. See, when life has to be lived as it comes, and you cannot have written answers for that. So it has to be practical work sense, observation of things, applying your mind and doing what is appropriate in that situation. That perhaps is desired.
Sir, I remember I was in 22 SSB. I think Bhopal mein na 22 SSB. So the president was taking my interview. I still remember that. So it is long time back. 82 की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. So he asked me, do you know swimming? I said, sir, I know not much, but I can. So he said, you are in a boat. Boat is, it's a very huge river. You are in the middle of the river. 2-3 kilometers you have to go to the bank.
Right.
And suddenly you notice water coming through a leak.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So I didn't have to think twice that time, sir. I said, I'll put my finger inside and stop the water. Then, of course, sir,
and hope there are no piranhas in the water.
officers, so situation बढ़ा देते ना, sir.
The difficulties increase.
So he said, okay, the hole is now become bigger. What do you do?
Put my foot
So I
inside.
said, I put my thumb inside. So I went slowly. I said, I put my thumb inside. Then he said, there is one more hole happen. I said, sir, I'll put my fingers like this. So he started smiling. Then he said, it has become bigger. And I said, sir, I'll put my foot inside and press it. Heel I'll push inside. He said, no chance. It is still going up. So I was thinking what to do. So I said, I'll take the oar.
Shirt उतार के भी डाल सकते हो
ये तो इतना बड़ा हो गया ना.
Okay.
So I said I'll take the oar,
Right.
wrap it with my shirt,
Yeah, and block it.
then I block it.
Yeah.
Then he said, okay, but now the boat is going to capsize. Know what I mean? So I had little stress on me. वो तो गड़बड़ हो गया because it is too far.
Yeah.
I have to swim only.
Correct.
But then he asked me, are you sure you will swim across? So I said, sir, I think I should be. But then he says, it was a very turbulent day. Water is rushing through.
Right.
And there is kind of a flooding situation. So what are you going to do? So finally I told him, sir, I'll allow the boat to capsize because boat is made of wood. Naturally it is going to float. I will hang on to it. And wherever it goes,
Wade it
I'll go
along
with
with
it.
it. Go along with it.
कहीं न कहीं तो जाएगा ये. कहीं न कहीं तो बैंक पे जाएगा. नहीं जाएगा तो I will not leave the boat.
Yeah.
Then he stopped asking.
Yeah, see, of course, even in a real situation, people would drown if they panic. Right? The boat, leaking or no, will eventually float only because it's not made of iron. And if you are a little calm, you can be floating along with it. You can go along with it. So obviously, when you are panicking, then things can go wrong in any situation. Right?
So we're looking for some questions from your
Yeah.
side, because unless you ask, then the interaction becomes more interesting. If you ask us some questions, do ask.
So like Kalmashokar was talking about the interview, they may give you situations perhaps which may be little not so familiar, you may not be very familiar with that. You may have an answer, but whatever answer you give, he would generally increase the degree of difficulty by adding, ये खराब हो गया या वो नहीं हो रहा, or something like that, to see your responses. Right? That's an important. I'll give you an interesting example of a boy who I had interviewed. Because sometimes issues can also become personal. There is something going wrong. घर में भाई बहन कुछ गलत काम कर रहा है, drugs etc. So such things can be irritating also at times. So one has to be careful how to answer. There's a boy I interviewed. He's a nice boy and a younger sister. She had finished school, and I said no, she's finished school. She's gone to college. When you go to college, you have a good time initially, making new friends. There's no uniform. There's no assembly. And you can bunk a class once in a while. So they are making good friends, right? So she's in that stage. And you notice that there's a guy around her, hanging around her in that group. Perhaps you may not be very, he may carry good reputation. So you don't want your sister to be very friendly to him. So he says, they'll question her. ठीक है, question कर दिया, but 2-3 हफ्ते बाद फिर वो इकट्ठे घूम रहे हैं. They're now cafe. ऐसे again I'll tell her not to meet this guy. After a month or 2 months, I said no. She says we going out for a trek. A group is going and he's also you realize he's also going, and he says I'll tell her not to go. I said, no, when you tell her not to go, she takes an offense. She says, my life, I want to do what I want to do. क्या करना मैं कर लो. So therefore, this guy felt very offended. Right? तो मैंने कहा क्या करोगे? कहता है मैं उसके टांग तोड़ दूंगा. क्या होता है? At times these things play on your ego.
Yes.
They play on your sentiment. How rational are you? What kind of responses you give? It can turn anyway. So one has to be rational, cool-headed, and appropriate, and be a little sure of yourself when you answer.
And don't allow your emotions to play high on you.
One can't go way out to be tongue on throat thing, but that is not a good way of stopping things from happening. There are better ways of doing it. Persuading, you may get in, see her friends can be involved, your friends can be involved, talk and maybe give some examples where you can, or at times parents can get involved. So just because I'm telling you that teri baat nahi mani, so his ego is getting, why can't, how dare she not listen to me? And therefore he chose to do what he said.
Tell them about that parrot story. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So at times in the when you are there in the SSB, there are certain candidates that will charm you. They look very bright and they look very nice, and you kind of have a soft corner for such people. And you feel कि भाई ये हो जाए तो अच्छा लगेगा, uniform में अच्छा लगेगा. I mean, there's a candidate like that who was, a 6-footer, studied in a public school. He could speak, flawless English, and he was fairly well informed. He could speak well and quite interactive. So we all got impressed during the screening test. So during the GTO series, during the group discussion and during the lecturate, etc., he could speak very well. So one felt that ये हो जाए तो अच्छा है. But he had a very poor practical work sense. So every time that he went through one of the outdoor leaderless group tasks like the PGT or the half group task or the command task, he was totally at sea with whatever was going on. So very simple ideas also would not occur to him because probably he had never applied his mind to practical work sense. Perhaps wasn't so that good. So now he somehow managed his way through the other tasks. Now finally when the turn came of the...
But initially he was quite impressive.
He was very impressive. So when command task came, so when we took him to a task where, initially right next to the start line, there was a huge tall kind of a bench, which was about, from the ground, it was about 4 feet high, and it had a kind of a proper bench-like top. So, and then he had to move further inside and retrieve a bomb or something. So now when he came for the command task, so firstly, candidates like this who have slightly poor practical work sense, they invariably call for subordinates who are better than them or who are actually good. So he called, 2 guys. One of them was a Manipuri guy, and these guys from the northeast, they are very good with the practical work sense, and they can come out with very quick and bright ideas as far as the practical work sense goes. So he called one of this guy and another guy as the helpers. Now when the task started, naturally the helpers or the subordinates cannot do anything directly or indirectly. It is the commander who has to initiate the process. So now this guy was moving up and down here, there. So when I told him that, Commander, half your time is over, so he became a little restless, and he looked around here, there, and then he couldn't think of an idea. Whatever little that he tried, it was shot down because it was impractical. So what he did, he asked, just to keep everybody engaged, so he asked this Manipuri guy, you come here. So he put the rope around his neck like this, and he made him climb up that huge tall bench, and he gave him a plank and a bully on both the shoulders, and he asked him to sit down on that bench. And he was now thinking what to do. He was moving from side to side, here to there. And then, last, when I kind of put the entire pressure on him and told him, Commander, last 2 minutes left for you now. Now he couldn't think of anything. He looked at the Manipuri guy. He told him, do something, don't sit there like a parrot. So that was the end of his command task. So sometimes you find really interesting stories from the SSB.
Most of the kind of facade, the way they want to behave, under pressure they break, and they come out with the real, veneer.
Yeah.
They come out with that. So I remember there was a girl. She was doing extremely well, very good, but somehow she was hiding her real personality, which was very evident.
Mm-hmm.
So She came for command task. So I asked her after briefing and all, how many subordinates you want? She said, as you wish.
Yeah.
So I said, no, you will have to say.
Yeah.
So she said, sir, actually I don't want anybody. Why? She said, they're all useless. So I said, okay, do it then.
Yeah.
So I gave her a 6 feet plank.
Right. She
It
could
was-
barely lift it up.
She could not even lift it. Then I asked her, now you want somebody?
Right.
Well, sir, I need 3.
She would have said, how about you, sir? You got good biceps.
So, this is how suddenly, you start exposing yourself and suddenly you realize what are you worth.
Yeah. The very interesting thing, like once there was a candidate who had this issue of, heights, fear of heights. So
Acrophobia.
during the
Acrophobia.
GOR, group obstacle race, I figured out that he had fear of heights. So I, taken a note of that. Now when he came for the command task, so I was very keen to see whether he'll be able to do that commando walk or not. So he, he started from upper body was running very fast, but his feet were running very slow.
Like a duck.
Yeah, and he was going here, there, every obstacle, idhar se, udhar se, but he was every time bypassing the commando walk. He was bypassing every time, and he thought के 3 मिनट निकल जाएंगे and इधर उधर भाग के I'll be able to whistle बज जाएगी. So मैं whistle बजाएगी. So 3 minutes he was still looking here and there. 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. His tongue came out. Eventually he said okay अभी तो करना ही पड़ेगा. So he tried 9 थोड़ा सा ऊपर गया and then he came down and then he gave up. Then he gave up. फिर whistle बज गई.
And I don't know whether a lot of candidates who already gone there would have experienced it. We asked them a question on command task, mostly to make a little bit of understanding how their psyche is. We asked them, okay, now shout the name of your heroine in life. In the command task.
In that commando walk. Yeah. When you stand on the victory stand, ऊपर जाके.
Yeah. On the victory stand, then we asked this question. So you can really see, even if they're trying to put up a show, the voice and the body language will
convey whether he's got fear of heights or not. And that thing is made in such a manner because it is resting on one pole.
Yeah.
If when you walk on it, it starts shaking if you are shaking. It won't shake if you walk smoothly. But then if you are scared and you start shaking, it starts shaking more.
Then they say, sir, it is shaking. It is not shaking, you are shaking it. And they start telling, Shraddha Kapoor. It's very, it's really funny sometimes.
I know. The very, very funny incidents in the SSB. Remember that there was a groundsman who was reported against by some of the girl candidates because probably he was, loitering around the girls' rooms. So during the board conference, one of the girls had said that you keep in check. One of the groundsmen, he unnecessarily spends time here and there. So when he was called, in fact, Colonel Shokan was the senior GTO. So he called him and he
We
told
were
him,
together.
Yeah, we were together. So he asked him. He said, uska naam, his name was something else, but he used to always call him Karnakar for whatever reason, because that is what he understood his name was. So he says, Karnakar, तुम उधर गर्ल्स की मेस में क्या करने गया था? तो he said, साहब मैं उधर टाइम पास करने गया था. तो he literally, his jaws dropped. He said, what do you mean टाइम पास करने गया था? कहता साहब हाँ, उनको सुबह बताना था कि 9 बजे उनका क्लास होगा. साइक शुरू 9 बजे शुरू होगा, तो मैं उनको टाइम पास करने गया था. So it is like humor in uniform sometimes.
That always goes with language.
I know.
Like Colonel Shokan ka,
I know. He has this issue.
I remember he tells a story when he joined the unit. So he was called by his.
Battery commander.
The youngsters are supposed to be in the gun park. They're not supposed to come to the offices. They're supposed to be in the dangris. And he was called by his battery commander, and somebody, his runner, came to ask him, "Sir, आपको साहब ने याद किया है?" तो कहता है हम भी उनको याद कर रहे हैं.
मैं भी बहुत याद कर रहा हूँ. Then he ran away, sir. Then after 10 minutes, he again came and said, BC साहब आपको बहुत याद कर रहा है.
Battery commander साहब. Yeah.
BC is battery commander.
Yeah.
तो अभी याद कर
Some of the youngsters will call, think it is something else.
Okay, it's battery commander.
Karthik is remembering DJ. I think he got a question. Sir, should I stop doing exercise during my preparation? Karthik from Lucknow. I know what it is.
No, why should you stop doing exercise? You must exercise and go
Yes.
well prepared.
Why not?
Fitter you are, the better it is. Why not?
See,
But don't
exercise-
put bulk.
Yeah,
Don't put bulk.
exercise is part of your daily routine.
Daily routine,
Like
yeah.
you eat your food.
Yeah.
You also got to exercise somewhere. You got to relax sometime. You got to do your work also sometime.
But bodybuilding is not a very good option. It would be better if you're going for SSB. It should be an athletic build, because I was a sufferer. I was a bodybuilder. I was that time Mr. Kerala also. But in the SSB I could do well. But then later in the training program, I really suffered because I could not go long distance. My muscles used to get cramps, and I started developing stress fracture on both the legs because my body was heavy. And
In fact, the
long
lighter you
distance-
are, the better it
Yeah,
is.
so a
It's
good
good to be
exercise
an
regime
athlete.
for is just
Running,
good
there's
run,
no exercise better than running, I
4
would
5
say.
kilometers,
No exercise
and
better
with
than
that some push-ups, some chin-ups on a rod or something. Those kind of things where you build up your muscles also. Running is give you good agility.
Running is the best thing.
You got to be agile and you could run. Then, SSB.
And if you want to do gymming, I would suggest take very light weight and do more repetitions.
Yeah.
So that you
Yeah.
get an athletic build,
Absolutely.
not bulk.
Absolutely.
So that's what you should do.
True.
And stamina building is more important as you have to go for SSB, not muscle bulk. That's not really required.
In fact, all the GTO obstacles require more of agility rather than strength. Actually.
Agility, yes.
So we're having a lot of salutations. Kaushik say Namaskar sir, Gautam say Jain sir. We would like you to ask questions. I'm lean and fit. I can run 11 km this brutal.
Wonderful,
55
wonderful.
is
Very
wonderful.
good, yeah.
Wonderful, Karthik.
Badhiya.
Good.
Just keep it up.
Yeah,
keep it up.
Keep it up. Don't
You
give
must
it
keep
up.
it up.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very good.
And push-ups also
Yeah,
start doing
push-ups
push-ups.
or arm
Yeah, for
strength,
arm
push-ups.
strength, shoulder strength, core muscles.
Because
Work on
now
that.
what has happened earlier, only Air Force had rope climbing. Now what has happened is Army, Navy, Air Force, all the SSBs in individual obstacle tasks, you have to do rope climbing.
Vertical rope.
Vertical rope.
Yeah.
So for vertical rope climbing, your hands have to be strong, your deltoid has to be strong, your biceps, you should having strength. It's very important, and your hands have to be hard enough.
See, you expected, the SSB, we expected to be just fit and agile. If you're that, then the training will take care of you. Fine. So beginning, some jogging, 4-5 kilometers, 3-4 kilometers, some push-ups, some sit-ups.
Sit-ups, pull-ups.
Yeah, pull-ups.
Pull-ups are very good,
These are
actually.
basic things that you should be doing. And
Yes.
what happens is also gives you a good start when you go to the training. Otherwise, a lot of people within 2-3 months they have
Stress
fractures,
fracture.
pains, and they miss training, and that is not good.
In fact, it would be a good idea for all defense aspirants. You put a rope at home in a tree or anywhere in any bar, and start rope climbing practice. How to use your legs also to wrap up the rope, and keep doing this, because this is going to be a very it's a plus point, because you will find most of the candidates coming there, 90% are not able to climb a rope. Now this has become compulsory for Army, because earlier Army, instead of rope climbing, it was used to be tiger leap and coming down only. Coming down is easier, you catch the rope, somehow you will come down, though you will grease your palm.
Yeah.
But now you have to go up against the gravitation, naturally your hands have to be good.
We have Gautam who's joined us. He says, I'm a repeater. I find during the group discussion in the GTO, students interrupt in between and it becomes difficult to completely say what I have in my mind.
Actually, Gautam, you should be aware that it is not how much you speak, but it is what you speak. That is what is more important. So your aim should not be कि मेरे को बहुत बोलना है, but whenever that you speak, it should be a real 3-pointer. It should be such points which are so meaningful that you create a good impact on the assessor. Now, something that you need to keep in mind when this discussion is happening is, firstly, choose a lead about which you have fair amount of knowledge. Don't pick up a lead about which you have less information, right? Now, formulate a couple of thoughts in your mind about that, and then you should be able to, whenever that you get a chance to speak, always draw attention before you speak, because if you straight away speak, in that noise your voice will get drowned. So good to draw attention by saying, gentlemen, I have a point to make here, etc. So now what will happen? The candidates may not still keep quiet, but the assessor will now know that you're about to say something. And then every time that you speak, you make a real good point. A good point would mean that it should have some kind of an information, कोई data दे रहे हो, कोई example के साथ quote कर रहे हो. So any point which is qualitatively good is more important than speaking too much. So don't worry about that. Even if you speak for 4 to 5 times in the entire 15 minutes, but all those 4 to 5 points are really meaningful, it's good enough. Nothing wrong.
See, the feeling that they interrupt, this nature of group discussion is such that everybody would participate, and therefore don't feel that they're interrupting you. But speak assertively, be brief when you make a point.
Excuse me.
And be clear, right? So even if somebody interrupts you, maybe you can let him speak once or twice, but if he's doing it again and again, good to caution him. Just say, please let me finish and finish your point. Right? So that's what is required. If you give up every time somebody interrupts, you become quiet, obviously you'll never be able to make your point.
But also in a group discussions, many times you find that there is some timid characters also. So there are some timid students. They mild hoga. So they would like to give a point, but then somebody is not allowing him to speak. So once you have given enough points, it would be a good idea to give that boy also a chance or that girl as a chance. So you can say, gentlemen or ladies, please let's see, chess number 4 has got some point to say. Let's hear her or let's hear him. So that would be a good idea. So it gives an impact and it gives a kind of, it will break this monotony of everybody speaking together. So you can then start. The moment that person speaks, then you get a good opportunity to start and continue the discussion again. So it's all about tacts you have to use there.
Karthik has a question. Says, should I read any monthly magazine rather than watching YouTube videos? I presume talking of general awareness, Karthik. General awareness is something which happens as you go along. It's good to read current maybe magazines, newspapers, the apps or the social media gives you a lot of information, a lot of news apps are there. Good to read, but also need to expand important issues, right? Because there are a lot of things are there. So everything need not be important. Pick up what are important things which are, once say, considered important for India, India's security or India's economy, or important geopolitics issues which are the neighborhood or larger, the global wars which are taking place, to expand on those issues. Right? You said listening to YouTube videos, they are interesting. So YouTube, because they give you good content, they give you colors, they give you videos, right? They're interesting, they occupy your mind space, they don't allow you to think. Therefore, a better idea would be to read more, make some notes, expand information. Once you internalize, you can speak. Because if you keep listening to YouTube videos, they sound good, they are very interesting, they absorb, they take away a lot of your time. But after time, when you have to repeat something, you hardly can talk anything other than the tip of the iceberg. Right? So it's not, we don't expect you to know all the details, but reasonable information, try to understand why are things happening the way happening, what is the background, who are the characters involved, what is the possible outcome, how does it affect India, what is our policy, those kind of things you need to expand on.
So these days, youth has got no patience to read.
Yes.
See, you read one page, you lost interest. You are in a bed, after one page, you started sleeping.
Yeah.
So what happened is our mind space is occupied by only images and images. That is why it's called idiot box. It makes you an idiot. So unless you don't read anything, your imagination will not develop, firstly. Secondly, you will never improve your vocabulary, because vocabulary is also very important. You just listening to YouTube or listening to TV channel is not going to improve your vocabulary. So there is a very major issue here. You have to understand this. You have to improve your English also, connected with current affairs. Though in YouTube, like you have said, there are very good channels also. Like I regularly see this First Post these days, where this Palki Sharma is giving a very good coverage of the whole world, pure geopolitical situation. And it will be good idea also, you buy 2 maps. One geopolitical map of India and another map of the world. So whenever you read through or understand, go to the map, have a check, understand what is in there, what are the neighborhoods, and then you will get better idea of the whole geopolitical situations. So this is very important. And one more thing I regularly see. In fact, sir only initiated me to that. That is print.
Yeah, there are a lot
Yes.
of
Cut the clutter,
Cut the clutter.
Gurjar
It's
also
very
says,
good. It's very
for
good.
general awareness, can we watch editorial discussion? They're good, they're interesting, but you have to internalize them.
Yes.
See, क्या होता है कि सुनना एक बात होता है, but उसको कुछ उसके ऊपर आपका डिस्कशन होना है, कुछ इनपुट देनी, so you have to be able to remember that. That doesn't happen when you just listen. Reading is more important. Reading good editorials, when you listen, read, you imagine, and when you imagine, you retain something. In editorial, the WhatsApp things, your mind is occupied, your audio-visual senses are occupied. You don't retain much. You enjoy them, right? So that is good to build it up. So basic information कुछ होनी चाहिए. Go into do some own research. Wikipedia देखो, Google देखो, make some notes. And then
Making notes is very important.
build up. Because once you do that with your own hand, then you can able to reproduce something. Otherwise, you are only talking of the headline, nothing more than that.
Even diary writing is a very good thing. I remember I had developed my little bit of English that time and vocabulary through everyday diary writing. Because I am from a school which is a local school. I hardly learned English there. It was a totally Malayalam school. And when I finished my 10th standard, when I went to join the college, it was 11th standard. They asked me a few questions in English. The professor sitting there because for 11 those times were pre-degree classes. So it was part of college only, not like this. I could not answer. I felt so humiliated. I felt low self-respect. I told my parents I am not going to join the college. मैं खेती बाड़ी करूँगा. That's what I said. But God has been kind. I got into reading habit. I went to library every day. दूसरा में तो library होते थे, and I used to cross a river every day to go to a library, sit there. One thing I made sure is I learned minimum 20 new words. Those days, there was a lot of small fiction novels available. Like you remember famous five
Famous
करके?
Five, yeah.
Enid Blyton.
Yeah,
was
Enid
the
Blyton, yeah.
author, na, sir?
I know.
So that I remember, and a lot of comics I used to read. those times.
yeah,
In
that's
fact,
why-
comics
that's
is a very good thing.
comics,
उसमें
yeah.
क्या होता है? There is conversation
Yeah.
going on between
Conversation
people.
and visualization.
Visualization
Yeah.
भी अच्छा है, and उस समय with the picture you connect with better.
Absolutely,
those
connect
times.
better. And
So we learned. That's how we learned, and I used to write, sir, diary writing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very good.
Every day I used to write diary, and initially my diary was not very clean. Like there were a lot of grammar mistakes. So I used to go to the librarian. He was good. I used to show him, and I got it corrected every day for few
Very
times.
nice.
Like, please correct it, sir. ये grammar कैसे? Then slowly I improved, and I remember I used to read a grammar book called Run and Martin.
You've been a good boy.
Because I wanted to get out of that place. I was like a frog in a well.
yeah.
I wanted to get
Gautam
out.
says if you get emotional about family question in the interview, will it become negative? See, Gautam, issues. Emotions are part of life. It's part of humans, and there may be certain issues discussed. You become a little emotive. Obviously, it will show on the face. Nothing wrong, but be able to control that. Move forward is very, very important. And it's like when you put a ball in water, it must bounce back. So that is an attitude that one must have. It's all emotions. You feel a little angry, but get on control. You feel happy, good, feel happy, but become normal soon. You can't be all the time jumping around, right? So you get a little sad, emotional, whatever. It is okay to feel that, but it's very important to come back. So क्या होता है कि mostly we keep reacting. We need to be conscious to control and take control of ourselves. Yes, we have one or two more questions. Praveen, in my first SSB Allahabad, हम सब फ्रेशर का अलग बैच बनाया गया और हम सबकी GD बहुत कम टाइम में हुई. 7 minutes.
How do you know
सारे
in 7
fresher
minutes
की
there is no watch for you? It is all you felt that way probably. If you don't really cut down like this, you don't wear a watch, so you really don't come to know. what
Anyway,
is the
see,
time.
it could be 7 minutes, could be 10 minutes, could be 12 minutes. What are the assessor looking for? Once they're satisfied, perhaps you can't question that. You should get fairly good inputs from you. You're speaking, logical, confident. So they're picking up all those signals from you, right? Could be 7 minutes sometimes because the numbers are too large. They have to finish number of batches. Perhaps it can happen sometimes, but it doesn't normally
You
happen.
don't
It is
come to
basically
know
no.
that.
Basically, if they are able to make up their minds early,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
देखो, what is a PPDT discussion? It is basically making up their mind कि भाई ये 15 लोग में how many can we retain for the next 4 days? It is not कि आपको finally recommend कर रहे हैं वो लोग. So they are basically retaining you for 4 more days. तो अगर उनको 7 मिनट में ही पता चल गया कि इनमें से किस किस को हम रिटेन कर सकते हैं, तो they will call it off.
That's it.
I mean, it is not, you know, although they'll tell you 10-15 minutes,
Yeah.
but once the discussion starts, they are immediately able to figure out, जब आप narrate कर रहे हो, तभी से आपके ऊपर नोट्स बनाने शुरू करेंगे कि ये आपने कैसे नरेट करा, हाउ गुड इज योर एक्सप्रेशन, यू नो हाउ व्हाट इज द लेवल ऑफ आइडिया दैट यू क्रिएटेड इन योर स्टोरी, how nicely were you able to put it out, how
Even
much
your
of
body
clarity.
language and even dress
Absolutely,
discipline.
body language, the way others are receiving what you're speaking is also seen.
Exactly.
And then when the discussion starts, they are quickly able to make up their mind sometimes, and they will call it off early. I mean, so you got to be an early entrant into the discussion. Don't feel
same
ke-
is true for the interviews.
Yeah.
Right? Though normally an interview should last about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, sometime 1 hour. Sometimes it finishes in 20 minutes, sometimes it may take 1.5 hours.
That's right.
Yeah,
But
it all
when the
depends.
IO is
He is
looking
making
for
up his mind.
information, the moment he's clear about something, he may not carry on, and he may close the thing one way or the other. Fine, he finds that is a good person, he's satisfied about his intelligence, practical work sense, his awareness levels, you know, the value systems are good. He may close it a little earlier. Similarly, he
It
finds
happens
this-
every
yeah,
time,
it
every
happens
task
everywhere.
actually.
Every
Even
task
in
like that.
PGT,
Yeah.
even in let's say lecturate.
Yeah.
Although you're given 3 minutes, but let's say if you're speaking something very interesting and I'm enjoying what you're speaking, I may let you speak for more than 3 minutes. But let's say if you're speaking and you know after 2 minutes you're just beating around the bush and you're not really making any good point, so GTO may call it off a little early also because he knows there is nothing worthwhile that you're speaking. So timing is just to lay a broad yardstick. It is not कि उतना time is mandatory. You have to understand that he is just making up his mind. Once he makes up his mind, the task is over for you.
Nirmal has got another question. How do I practice? Nirmal, your earlier question was about awareness. What is it that I'm making notes also? So I presume you're talking of the same thing. So basically, it's got to keep up what you're doing. One is read. Second is connect with what's happening earlier. These issues are something which is built up over time and it's a lifetime affair. It's not कभी SSB के लिए करना, fine. But once it becomes a habit, you don't even have to make notes. You just understand and you are going क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है. Yes, be aware of the names, some important data. All that is useful, especially when you go for the interview.
So saying
Nirmal, one
practice
thing
daily
is very-
उसने बोला है ना कि
Yeah.
how should I practice
so reading,
daily?
one is
So it
reading,
involves
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Practice would include even your physical fitness.
Yes.
It would also include mingling with friends and
Speaking.
interacting, speaking
Yeah.
up,
Discussions.
Yes.
speaking, improving your expression,
Find time
writing
to-
skills,
yeah,
speaking
find time
skills.
to-
all
It's
of
an
that.
holistic personality development.
Discussions amongst yourself with your friends. in the
एक
family.
routine बनाओ अपने
Good to
लिए.
do that.
But remember, one thing is not an examination. So mostly we find all these candidates are studying for SSB. So
Yeah.
not bother what is going to happen after SSB. You've just made up your mind to face the SSB. That's not enough. You have selected a career in the armed forces as a leader. Now that leadership is not just for SSB only. It is for your lifelong, achievement. You are transformed into a leader kind of material. So it is a transformation required. So abhi se hi you have to change your lifestyle. That is very important. So again, these current affairs and all go along with the days, like you should be able to read, you should be able to even see something happening like say Bangladesh. Now so many things are happening in Bangladesh. So you should be interested to know what is happening now, what is going to happen tomorrow, your analysis about it, how the situation is emerging now, how this crisis is emerging now, all these things you should be thinking about it. So SSB we are not going to ask you what has happened yesterday in Bangladesh. I may ask you what is your assessment about it. What do you think is going to be a solution for having again a harmonious relationship with Bangladesh? Suppose. So you should know the whole geopolitical
You
situation.
should
Then
know
only able to answer
you
it.
should know who are the players there, what are the parties,
Yes.
what are the ideologies. Broadly, इतना मोटा मोटा पता होना चाहिए ना. Bhumika has got said in the interview, general awareness is asked a lot based on the forces, current events, in detail about regarding the institutes like NRF. Yeah, see, Bhumika, general awareness is general awareness. We can't really quantify. And every IO is different, and therefore sometimes he may take a particular course of asking, sometimes may not. General awareness can also be judged basically from your awareness of information connected with your subjects, with your sports, your hobbies. Basically, aim is to see your curiosity, right? So therefore, yes, current affairs are important because geopolitics important. India India's growth, economy, climate change, all those things are important. Space is important, right? So awareness is cannot be limited. It's got to be built upon issues which are important to us.
But as a defense aspirant, your knowledge about the defense forces should be adequate, because you are going to join an organization which is alien to you till that point. So your knowledge about defense organization, suppose say you are going to join Air Force, you should know everything about Air Force.
Yeah.
What is the new acquisitions? What is the new modernization coming up? What are the new technological development happen? Everything you should know generally. Maybe not like an army officer or an Air Force officer, but as an aspirant who is keen to join the forces. Again, you will generally find, you should be having knowledge India centric. I'm not going to ask you Timbuktu mein who is the, president there. I'm not going to ask you. Mostly not. What we would generally would cover would be India and the neighborhood and expansion of the world where India is an active central role. So you must focus on India-centric informations, mostly about our neighborhood, because you will find all our enemies are surrounding us. Our enemies are not away; they are all in the neighborhood. So it is very important going to be like for a फौजी, खबर दुश्मन के बारे में, ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है. इसकी मतलब क्या है? दुश्मन की स्ट्रेंथ क्या है, दुश्मन की वीकनेस क्या है, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. So generally in those lines, when you enter the armed forces, you will learn much more about it in much details, much probing into it. But at the same time, generally you must have an idea who are our sworn enemies and what are the kind of geopolitical situation emerging out of it. Where do we stand today? Now, for example, right now it's a very interesting scenario is forming up where India has got a very fair chance to mediate between Ukraine and Russia. Now, this is emerging as a very new possibility of actually becoming a Vishwaguru with others. So, all this geopolitical situation like a kaleidoscope is emerging. Every day you find something new happening. The whole design is changing right now. So, please stop reading and studying for SSB. You have to change your lifestyle so that you should feel that I am a gentleman cadet now, I am a lady cadet, but I am in the process